welcome back to my channel. I'm Natalie from Natalie and Company. I've read a lot of different kinds of books this year, and I've been really enjoying it for that exact reason. I have read 15 books so far this year. Welcome to Natalie and Company. I'm Natalie. You're the company. I hope that you will join me in hearing my opinions about the things that I've read so far this year. First, this year started out with the Uglies trilogy by Scott Westerfeld, Uglies, Pretties, and Specials. I'm not going to go into this too much because I did do a whole entire video about it. I analyzed basically the story of the Uglies trilogy and whether, it holds up from its popularity of its time. The Uglies trilogy is about a dystopian world in which when everybody turns 16, they receive this type of cosmetics, like full body cosmetic surgery in order to advance onto the next stage of their life. And just basically the implications of living in a society so centered on the way people look in order for advancement and things like that. I really enjoyed the first one. I will say that. I enjoyed the first one. It was a great premise and it was a great setup. There just was not very much follow through. So if these are the types of books that you are wanting to reread for nostalgic reasons because you loved them when you were little, I would maybe just be happy with the first book. If you just don't read the ending, you could have fun. You could have some fun. Next, another disappointment, unfortunately, The Adirondack Witch by Patrick Ruhman. Oh man. The Adirondack Witch is a horror book about a man who has recently just lost his wife. She's passed away, and in order to try and move forward with his life, he decides to go on a trek through the Adirondack Trail. Just think Blair Witch vibes for sure. Wanted to like this so much. Once you get into the meat of it, it's really interesting and it's very suspenseful and the setting is great, but I just felt like there's a major pacing issue with the entire story. There's so much in the beginning that just befuddled the mind and made the ending not feel as impactful for me. I have a hard time with really slow beginnings. Like, it could just totally be like a personal thing that I didn't get it, but I did only give it like a 3-star because the execution of it wasn't done well enough for me to be able to enjoy the good parts properly. And then next, one of my favorite reads that I've read so far this year is Prophet Song by Paul Lynch. This is the Booker Prize winner for 2023. I had originally started it and kind of like fell off after the first couple of chapters. The beginning little bit was it was very slow. And then I watched Hannah Lost the Plot. I watched her video and where she marks it as a 5-star and really talks about like how beautifully and intricately the story is woven, and she made me feel like I needed to pick it up again, and it did, and it was amazing. It wasn't a 5 for me just because it's an objectively good book. It's not a favorite book, right? There's a little bit of a difference, even though I really, really, really enjoyed it. So it ended up a 4.5. It's just pretty damn close. Prophet Song is a speculative fiction, I guess you would consider it. I would say it's a dystopian portraying a increasingly authoritarian Ireland, and specifically focusing on a family and their experience and evolution as a family throughout the process of their government becoming increasingly more authoritarian. And it's so supremely done. It is completely unnerving in a way I would almost like be again to like Leave the World Behind, because it is so realistic. All of the thoughts that the character has, especially specifically the main character, the mother, all of her ideas and wants and needs, and then her last minute decisions and her thought out decisions are so realistic. It's literally feels like a window into somebody's real mind and their experiences throughout the process of their government taking over their lives more and more. It gets really dark. It definitely does. Like, it escalated to a point that I didn't think that it was going to. Like, it's a slow and steady build throughout the entire book. This was such an amazing read. I totally understand why it won the Booker Prize. It's a really intimidating, honestly, reflection of what a lot of people living under authoritarian rule or authoritarian influenced rule go through today, and a view of a potential future that is mere years in the making. And so, like, it holds so much impact. It is a modern classic because it is a perfect portrayal of the modern experience. The characters have phones, the characters, you know, have the internet. It is a complete interaction with our modern world, which I think is so hard to do because people don't want to read books about their real life. They want to read books about something that's not their own real life. So when you can take something that so many people are experiencing on a daily basis and portray it and have it become so popular and win prizes even, I feel like you can kind of tell that Paul Lynch has really done his job very well. Next, I have my first 2 physical copies to show you. We have Good Girl, Bad Blood and As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. These are part of the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, and I love these. A YA thriller series about a girl who investigates a murder in her small town. When I heard that it was like a thriller like series, I was kind of wary because I'm always wary of things like that. But I thought that Holly Jackson just does such a great job at building the story upon the foundation that she had created for it. None of the details seem out of place. They don't seem like she's trying to zhuzh up the story. It's realistic in an anger way, actually, because the main character goes through these phases of rage at the system that she has been put under, and the police, and how all of these people are not trying to save people. And it's such a familiar rage that is so reminiscent of real political rage, and I really actually admire that, especially because picking these up, I thought that they were just going to be some type of fun, silly little, goofy little YA thriller, right? They kind of look like it, and underneath there was like this commentary about how the systems that have been built to protect us have completely failed, and I really enjoyed that undercurrent. I liked Good Girl, Bad Blood more than I liked As Good as Dead. From what I know, that's like a minority opinion. I liked this one more because I liked the sleuthing journey that she went on more, and then this one was like the escape, which I thought tied the series off very well. I definitely get why this series is so popular because it's super well done, surprisingly. I don't know, I have this affliction where I automatically do not want to partake in anything that is super popular. That's why I didn't read Percy Jackson until after the first movie had been put out. I hate jumping onto the bandwagon. It's absolutely not my thing because of no reason. There's no reason for me to do this or to feel this way. I always just end up feeling like I'm missing out. But, like, I physically cannot bring myself to partake. Like, I watched Dune, the first Dune, like 3 days ago. I physically cannot bring myself to partake in the things that everybody is talking about until everybody's no longer talking about them. It is an affliction. It is a curse, I tell you. So, obviously, because of how popular this series was, that was how I felt about these. And I'm just glad that they held up to all of the praise. If you could hear my computer, I'm really sorry. It sounds like a jet engine right now. Okay, after that silly little endeavor, I picked up this. Except for Palestine, The Limits of Progressive Politics by Mark Lamont Hill and Mitchell Plitnick. This I won't go into too much into because I also filmed a vlog reading this, and you can check that one out. I'm really proud of it. and I really enjoyed making it, and I think a lot of the information in there is very important for people to know. So if you would like to check that out, I would really appreciate it. The link will be right there, or right there. But this 4 stars, mostly because it's gents. It's not super accessible. It is an advanced lesson on Palestine, on specifically the U.S. policies that have affected and influenced the Israel-Palestine conflict over recent years specifically. It does go into the history, but it's very much talking, so maybe about the past 20 years, talks a lot about Bush and Clinton, and there's a whole chapter on Trump and things like that. I thought that this was really, really awesome because it gives such a specific lens for a modern age. There's so much history to everything that has gone on with Palestine and everything that Israel has done to Palestine, and you can spend books and books and books and hours and hours and hours talking about that history, but it's very important to see the specific and direct movements that have recently happened that have led to where we are now. Like I said, this was amazing. Every fact in here, it's been written so amazingly. There were some quotes that made me emotional and that just really knocked it out of the park. Although this book was a slower read because it takes longer to process. It's heavy sentence structure and lots of large vocabulary words. It's definitely at a higher reading level, but I think that can also be a benefit because the research work that has been put into this is super valuable. It is definitely usable for something like a thesis statement or a report, or this is a source material made to make points and win debates with, and the argument that they make in here is really amazing, not only because they make wonderful points about obviously supporting Palestine, but because they talk about the failure of progressive politics in specific in the United States, and how progressives have continually failed to save the people of Palestine, and how that failure is the foot in the door of authoritarianism in the United States as a country. So if you're looking for an advanced perspective on the modern topic, pick this up. It's an amazing, amazing read. And then next, I was lucky enough to receive an ARC, a digital copy. I didn't get one of the beautiful, pretty hard copies, but that's okay. Of Evocation by S.T.Gibson, who wrote A Dowry of Blood, which is on my favorite shelf. I absolutely adored this, and I'm really happy that I did, because I kept hearing people have reservations about An Education in Malice, and I'm also concerned because I know both of these 2 stories that she has had come out recently are supposed to be a series, and so now I'm gonna have, the wait for the series has begun, especially because I enjoyed the first one, Evocation, so much. Evocation is a rivals to lovers polyamorous story about a group of people that practice the dark occult, specifically centered on one very haunted man and his experiences as he becomes sicker and sicker due to his soul being sick. Something is wrong. And I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was, a great standalone. You can tell where the story is going from here, and you can see how there might be more of the story after the end of this book, but the story ends off in a place where if you wanted it to be a standalone, it definitely could be, and I think that is a plus of this for sure. So thank you to S.T.Gibson's team for sending me that ARC, because I really appreciated it. Next, I Have the Right to Destroy Myself by Young Ha Kim. This was a random, really short book that I found on Scribd/Everand, and the writing was so amazing, and I still gave it a 2 because it just couldn't follow through with any cohesive theme. I felt like the pieces and parts that were supposed to form a bigger picture never really came together to like create anything. I thought that the tone and atmosphere that the writing created, like every word was delicious, yet all of the pieces together did not make a cohesive book. It felt like a bunch of like snippets of individual writing that had been all published together, but I don't think that that was what it was intended to write. So I probably wouldn't recommend this one unless you have a particular want for a disregard for plot and you just like the vibes, and you know, it could definitely be for you. I Have the Right to Destroy Myself is a dark speculative fiction about a woman who helps people unalive themselves. It's an interesting premise, and I was excited to see it carried through, but it wasn't. Okay, this is the book I'm the most mad about, because this is the book that disappointed me. This disappointed me so entirely. Last to Leave the Room by Kaylin Starling. First, look at this cover. It looks like lots of clones, right? Like, oh, Last to Leave the Room. That's not what it is. That's literally not what happens in this book. It's not a spoiler, because it's like an anti-spoiler, right? This book is like a science fiction horror about a woman who is performing science experiments deep underground when the entire city begins to sink. Like, sink. And then she finds a door in her basement that was not there before. So interesting, right? And the thing is, the story is so interesting, and she carries it through in her concepts all the way to the very end. But the writing sucks. There is the bug in my brain that needs to know the end of a story, no matter what it is. I just need to know how it ends. And so I could not put this book down, no matter the fact that nothing really and truly and actually prominent and important happened until more than halfway through this 300-page book. Like, there were so many unnecessary details and meandering thoughts and misdirections in the beginning that did not need to be there, that supremely lower the quality of this book, which is so sad, because the ideas and concepts that she represents in it are genuinely really cool. She just couldn't carry them out. I was so upset about it. I was so mad when I got to the end, and I was like, okay, well, that's 11 hours of my life given to that book. That book is the number one reason I'm making this video, because I needed to talk to somebody about it. So if you've read Last to Leave the Room by Kaylin Starling, let me know how you thought about it. Let me know how you felt about it. Let me know if you liked it, because I would like to hear your opinion on the slow pacing and unnecessary details that were involved in it. So let me know. You know, thinking back to it, none of these have been very good, but I've been enjoying my reading experiences, okay? That's all that matters. It's the thought that counts, and the thoughts that these books have provoked have counted to me very much. But thankfully, next book that I read ended up being a 5-star. So the next book that I read was Mislaid in Parts Half Known, which was the newest book in the Wayward Children series, which I've been reading for the past couple of months. I was super excited to finally get a chance to pick this up. I listened to the audiobook like in one sitting. I literally couldn't stop listening, and I gave it 5 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed the character development and the conversations, like the dialogue in this one specifically, and I also loved jumping from world to world to world in this, like they did, and having much more of a payoff, because this is the second book of Ansie's story. This story has had a little bit more time to like cook in the oven, basically, and it really gave it that edge that I just felt like I really enjoyed. And I am sad that we have to wait another entire year for the next one. Honestly, the Wayward Children series is a series I wish would just never end. Like, Sean McGuire can go on just writing them forever, and I would not be upset about it at all. I would read every single one of them. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, I picked her up. I finished her. Pride of the Orange Tree is a high fantasy about a world in which large dragon monsters like ravaged the entire world or for 1,000 years, and then they all suddenly fell asleep. But these dragons have been stirring again, and just, you know, all kinds of different countries, different people and places and influences come into play. And I like how it was lightly political. It doesn't go too much into the politics. It's more religion heavy, because like all of the countries' governments in here are very heavily influenced by the religions that they hold, and so I think that made it a little bit less dense because everything was more focused on like the religious beliefs of the people. I loved the Priory of the Orange Tree. To me, it evokes so much of like what you want from high fantasy without being too dense. It doesn't go to Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings level. It's barely above like regular fantasy. Like it's like just one step above it, and that one step just really elevates this entire story. I also love the fact that it's a singular book. I love the fact that it's a singular story, that I don't have to find or pick up anything else after this. I do have Day of Fallen Night on my shelf to pick up, but I loved cracking this open and just having the whole thing in front of me from beginning to end. I loved Iad. I did feel like Tane, the second protagonist, kind of had some blank spaces in her personality and in her writing, and in a world so expansive, it's hard to flesh out every single character to its fullest. So like it's not it didn't get a 5. I got a 4.5 because it's not the best fantasy that I've ever read or the most enjoyable fantasy that I've ever read, but it's a damn good story, and the slow burn romance in here is so prime. I love the slow burn, and they actually did it. The way that she left the story off makes it feel like the world continues to exist on without her writing it, which is, you know, all an author can wish for when somebody closes their book, is that they feel as if the world still exists. So if you are a fantasy girly that has a little bit of patience, pick this one up. And then I picked up None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I picked this one up because I watched Katie's video where she like tallies up all of the favorite books of 2023, and this was one of the top books that was in her video. Everybody made it sound so enjoyable, but I absolutely fucking hated it. I'm not gonna lie, she literally gives the whole thing away in the title. It's not thrilling, it's predictable, because she tells you what the ending is. Why would she do that? All she had to do was name it something different, and the book probably would have been a billion times better. Like, I'm not actually joking with you. None of This Is True is about a lady who meets her birthday twin. They have the same birthday in a restaurant, and it kind of just devolves from there. But like I said, the title gives it away. I'm not giving it away. It's the title that gives it away. So when you pick up this book and you say, oh, I could have guessed that was the end, it's not my fault, okay? It's the title's fault. Their reviews of this book were, in my opinion, more well written and eloquent than this actual book was. And I didn't like that, you know? And then the final book that we have on our list here is No Exit by Taylor Adams. No Exit is a book about a college-age girl who is driving from Colorado to Utah and gets caught in a very large snowstorm. She has to stop at a rest stop, but unfortunately it looks like she may be stuck there with some unsavory characters. It's very much like, from beginning to end, packs a punch. Action starts right at the beginning, so I thought it was really fun for that reason. And I really enjoyed this one, although it was just a solid 3.5. There was nothing wrong with it. There was nothing to really write home about in regards to this. It just was good. It just was fun. It was an enjoyable thriller. You know, it kept me in suspense the whole time, but it was also pretty basic, I would think. Okay, I was confused at the beginning of this video, but I think looking back at it now, I have had pretty subpar beginning of the year. Even though the books that I've liked, I have really liked. I really appreciate you being here to watch and listen to what I thought about all of these books that I've read this year. I might love to chat and gab in the comments, you know, I'll be there, and I appreciate you watching and keeping me company here while we talked, and I hope you have a good night.